teenager broke into one of the biggest game studios on the planet using nothing but a phone, a hotel TV, and an Amazon Fire Stick. He leaked 90 clips of Grand Theft Auto 6 more than a year before anyone was supposed to see them, and it triggered one of the largest breaches in gaming history. That teenager didn't disappear after his arrest. He kept talking, kept hacking, and kept showing up in headlines years later, right as GTA 6 finally gets ready to launch. So the question everyone's asking now is simple: what actually happened to him? The GTA 6 hacker story didn't end with handcuffs in 2022. It's still unfolding right now in 2026 with a prison transfer, a smuggled phone, and a retrial that lands the same month the game finally comes out. Rewind to September 2022. Grand Theft Auto 6 was still years away from any official reveal. Rockstar hadn't dropped a single trailer. Then, out of nowhere, 90 videos and screenshots of unreleased gameplay were posted to the GTA forums, showing off early builds of the game months before Rockstar was ready to show anyone anything. The person behind it was a then 18-year-old hacker who also claimed to be behind an Uber breach that occurred a few days earlier. His name was Arian Kurtaj, and he wasn't some random opportunist who stumbled onto a leaked file. He was already a known name in cybercrime circles, going by the handle TipaTuber Hacker, and he was a member of the Lapsus Dollar group that had previously hit Nvidia, Uber, and Microsoft. Here's the part that made this hack genuinely stunning. Kurtaj carried out the Rockstar hack while he was under police protection at a Travelodge hotel, reportedly using only an Amazon Fire Stick, the television in his room, and a cell phone. He didn't need a laptop full of custom tools. He didn't need a team. He was sitting in a hotel room, supposedly being watched by police, and he still managed to get into Rockstar's internal system. And it gets worse for anyone trying to explain how this happened. Kurtaj was out on bail after hacking Nvidia and in police protection at a Travelodge when he infiltrated Rockstar's systems, using only an Amazon Fire Stick, the TV at his hotel, and a cell phone to pull off the cyberattack. He'd already been arrested once for a separate hack. He was supposed to be under watch. It didn't stop him. Once he was inside Rockstar systems, Kurtaj accessed Rockstar systems through compromised employee credentials, which allowed the download of approximately 90 early-stage GTA VI gameplay videos. He posted them straight to a public fan forum. GTA V's source code went up online too. This wasn't a quiet leak that trickled out over weeks. It was a flood all at once. And it hit at the worst possible time for Rockstar, which was deep in development on the most anticipated game of the decade. Police caught up with him fast. A couple of days after the leak, the City of London police arrested the hacker, Arian Kurtaj, thanks to assistance from the FBI and NCCU. The scale of his activity went well beyond Rockstar 2. He was accused of causing almost $3 million of damage to Uber and accessing around 5,000 Revolut customers' information. On top of that, he and a 17-year-old accomplice were accused of blackmailing BT Group and mobile operator EA, demanding a $4 million ransom for stolen data. For a company like Rockstar, the damage wasn't just embarrassment. It reportedly cost real money too. Rockstar stated the hack cost the company $5 million. And for a franchise that had been shrouded in total secrecy for years, having 90 clips of raw, unfinished gameplay dumped onto the internet was the kind of nightmare scenario game studios plan entire security systems around avoiding. So the arrest happened. The leak was out there forever, saved and re-uploaded across the internet within hours. And the question shifted from, how did this happen, to what happens to him now? Here's where the story gets complicated. A British jury convicted Kurtaj and a second teenager, both members of Lapsus Dollar, on charges of hacking, fraud, and extortion. But before the jury even reached that point, doctors had already stepped in with a diagnosis that would shape everything that followed. In July 2023, psychiatrists assessed Kurtaj and found him unfit to stand trial due to his acute autism. That meant the jury's role changed. Instead of a standard guilty or not guilty verdict, they could only determine whether he'd actually committed the acts he was accused of, not whether he was criminally responsible for them in the traditional legal sense. The jury found that he had, and then came the sentencing decision that left a lot of people stunned. Rather than prison, a judge ruled that Kurtaj should be placed in a secure hospital until mental health professionals decided he no longer poses a risk to the public. Doctors had deemed Kurtaj, who is severely autistic, unfit to stand trial. The court wasn't shy about why. A mental health evaluation had raised a serious red flag. Kurtaj continued to express an intent to return to cybercrime as soon as possible, adding that he is highly motivated to engage in more criminal activities. The judge who handed down the sentence said Kurtaj remained a high risk of serious harm to the public through skill in gaining unfettered access to computers. So he was sent to a secure hospital, potentially for life, unless doctors ever cleared him. For context, these facilities aren't the same as prison. They're much less harsh than prison. They double as residential treatment centers that aim to rehabilitate and eventually discharge offenders. And there are around 60 of them across England and Wales. It sounds almost gentle compared to a standard sentence, and that's exactly what made what happened next so controversial. Because Kurtaj didn't quietly serve out his hospital order. Reports surfaced that inside the facility, he'd been living a life that looked nothing like punishment. According to accounts that later circulated, he described his time there as genuinely enjoyable. Access to the community, cooking his own meals, going shopping, and spending hours a week fishing as a hobby he'd picked up. For a hacker who'd been ruled too dangerous to face a normal trial, it was an odd image. A man supposedly locked away for public safety, living something close to a normal routine. Then came the phone. Screenshots and Snapchat photos began circulating that appeared to show Kurtaj smuggling a phone into his facility and continuing to communicate with people on the outside. Selfies surfaced showing him at what looked like a cell door, with captions complaining about being "bro, HMP dead, waiting trial for some bullshit hacking charge." But the messages that really set off alarm bells weren't about his own case. They were about GTA 6's source code. In conversations that leaked online, Kurtaj was messaging with someone identified only as Omar. And when the topic of the source code came up, he didn't deny it existed. He said it was definitely somewhere, in reference to the code being out there on the internet somewhere already, just not yet released. When pressed further, he shut it down, saying only interesting before going quiet. Omar, whoever he was, didn't stop there. He kept posting more of the conversation, and he made a claim that added fuel to an already tense situation, that there are multiple people who currently have the GTA VI source code. If true, that would mean the 2022 breach hadn't fully been contained, that copies had scattered further than anyone at Rockstar had accounted for. It's worth being honest about the uncertainty here. Nobody outside of Kurtaj, and whoever he was messaging, can verify whether the source code claim is real or just talk from someone stuck behind bars with a burner phone and a reputation to maintain. One person close to the Lakes even suggested he might not be as impaired as the court proceedings made it sound, writing online that he seemed sharp, deliberate, and fully aware of the chaos his words were causing. Either way, the effect was the same. A name that was supposed to be a closed case kept forcing its way back into GTA 6 headlines, years after the original hack. Fast forward through 2026, and the story took its most significant turn yet. Kurtaj was moved out of the secure hospital entirely. BBC correspondent Joe Tidy confirmed the shift, reporting that Kurtaj is now out of the hospital and in a normal prison awaiting retrial, currently scheduled for November. That timing is not a coincidence anyone missed. November 2026 is the same month Grand Theft Auto 6 is finally scheduled to release, on November 19, 2026 for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series XS. The man whose actions define the game's leak-plagued development cycle will be back in a courtroom the exact month the finished product hits shelves. Why a retrial at all, given the hospital order was supposed to be indefinite? The answer comes down to that same medical determination that got him hospitalized in the first place, just reversed. He'd originally been sent away because doctors said he was unfit to stand trial. Now, doctors have apparently deemed him medically fit to stand trial again, which clears the path for a traditional criminal proceeding rather than the halfway process the jury went through the first time around. Details about exactly what changed in his medical assessment, or what specific charges he'll face this time, remain largely undisclosed. Authorities have stayed tight-lipped about the preparations. What's clear is that this won't be a repeat of the first process, where a jury could only rule on whether he did the acts, not whether he was guilty. This time, if the case follows through, it's a real trial with a real verdict. And the backdrop to all of this couldn't be more charged. Kurtaj's case has become a reference point in cybersecurity conversations for a few specific reasons. The simplicity of the tools used in the attack, which included an Amazon Fire Stick, a hotel TV, and a cell phone. The inability of law enforcement to prevent further cybercrime while in custody. Questions about how state actors and secure environments can be better protected against insider threats. Every time he's resurfaced with a phone he shouldn't have had, those questions have gotten louder. But here's the twist nobody saw coming when Kurtaj was moved to prison this year. He's not the only name attached to GTA 6 leaks anymore. In August 2026, just months before launch, a completely new figure appeared calling themselves CyberLeak, and their leaks turned out to be even more alarming than the original 2022 breach in some ways. Because this time, the leaker appeared to be playing the game live. It started August 18, when CyberLeak began sharing what looked like genuine GTA 6 gameplay footage. The internet was skeptical at first, the way it always is with leaked claims, but the footage held up. It showed the game's protagonist, Jason, doing mundane things, shooting hoops outside a house fans recognized from the trailers, driving around, getting into the kind of random chaos GTA is known for. A day later, 2 more clips dropped, both looking just as legitimate. Then came the moment that changed the entire conversation. The 5th video CyberLeak released ended with the character writing the word leak into the side of a building using bullet holes. A live in-game action that could only happen if someone was actually controlling the character in real time, not just replaying old footage they'd found somewhere. As one industry analysis put it, this indicated CyberLeak doesn't just have a stash of clips. They have direct access to an interactive build, or at least had it, of GTA 6 itself. CyberLeak didn't stop at gameplay. Using a paid poll on their own website, they let followers vote on what leak should come next, and the community picked an aerial flyover of Vice City, delivered days later. It painted the picture of someone treating a stolen game build like content to be farmed for engagement, not just evidence to be dumped and forgotten. The demands attached to it gave the whole thing a strange political flavor. CyberLeak stated publicly that the leaks would continue until Rockstar and its parent company, Take-Two, issue a public statement and apology, with a concrete commitment to do better regarding GTA 6's lack of a proper physical disc release. A reference to the fact that GTA 6's physical edition ships with a download code rather than an actual disc. It's a real grievance among a section of the gaming community, but it sat next to complaints about fake, single-player DLC and on-disc DLC practices that felt more like a manifesto written after the fact than a genuine catalyst. One analysis pointed out the leaker also stamped every release with promotion for a cryptocurrency token and ran that paid poll for engagement, concluding this was hardly a selfless act of protest. That token, CYBRLEK, became its own small story. Built on Solana, it reportedly traded in a tight range with liquidity near $397,000 and thousands of holders by mid-August, which confirmed real money was moving through the campaign, even if nobody could say for certain what it was funding. As of the most recent leak, an overhead shot of Jason flying a biplane over Vice City. Neither Rockstar nor Take-Two has made any public statement addressing CyberLeak directly. Their demand for an apology and a disc commitment hasn't been acknowledged. Rockstar has instead pressed forward with its own plans, confirming that an extended gameplay reveal will air just before launch, regardless of what continues to leak in the meantime. Amateur investigators tried to beat the professionals to an answer. A Rockstar community member going by King Julian launched his own investigation and claimed CyberLeak is a real threat actor with a prior identity and a bad reputation among cybercrime peers, unconnected to other rumored breaches floating around at the same time. Another independent investigator claimed to have identified the person behind the leaks entirely and said he'd sent his findings to the legal teams at both Rockstar and Take-Two. But neither company has confirmed any of it, and separate names thrown around online, including one claim of a specific identity, were quickly disputed as false by others following the story closely. For now, CyberLeak remains a brand attached to a website and a couple of social accounts, several of which turned out to be impersonators caught posting AI-generated fakes before deleting them. So where does that leave the original GTA 6 hacker? Kurtaj sits in a standard prison cell right now, not a hospital, waiting for a trial in the same month. The game he leaked 4 years early finally reaches players. Whether that trial results in a return to indefinite hospitalization, an actual prison sentence, or something else entirely is still unknown, and authorities aren't saying much ahead of it. What is clear is that the story he started back in a Travelodge hotel room with a fire stick and a phone never really closed. It just kept finding new ways to resurface. Through a smuggled phone, through claims about a source code still floating around out there, and now through an entirely different figure, carrying the same kind of chaos into the final months before launch. Rockstar built a decade toward this release. The hackers, old and new, have made sure that even now, none of it has gone according to plan.